Preface. This book is not about teaching you what to think. It is an invitation to see how you think, and to feel the quiet rhythm beneath it. We live in a world that teaches speed, not depth, reaction, not reflection. Opinions have become currencies, and silence has become a forgotten art. Yet, somewhere between the noise of certainty and the ache of confusion, there lies a sacred space, the space of an open mind and an open heart. This is not a guide to happiness. It is a meditation on awareness, on seeing without judging, on listening without defending, on living without closing. I wrote these reflections not as answers, but as questions that kept returning, whispering to be understood. If you find yourself here, perhaps you too are tired of the walls between people, the invisible lines between belief and truth, self and other, love and fear. May these pages remind you that openness is not weakness, it is courage in its purest form. To remain open in a world that rewards resistance is an act of quiet rebellion. Welcome, then. Let us walk slowly, together. Introduction. Between mind and heart. There is a delicate tension that lives inside every human being, the distance between what we know and what we feel. The mind seeks structure. It asks for proof, for logic, for control. It wants to understand the world by naming it. But the heart doesn't need names. It speaks in sensations, in silence, in trembling truths that no equation can hold. We spend much of our lives caught between these two currents, intellect and emotion, reason and tenderness. When one dominates, we lose balance. When both listen, we find peace. To keep an open mind is to allow the possibility that you might be wrong. To keep an open heart is to allow the possibility that others might be right, even when they hurt you, even when they see differently. In openness, there is freedom, not from pain, but from resistance to pain. Every great philosopher, poet, and seeker understood this paradox. That truth is not owned, it is encountered. That wisdom is not gathered, it is received. This book is a journey through that understanding, from the walls we build to the light we uncover, from fear to empathy, from knowing to simply being. The walls we build. Every human being carries an invisible architecture within, a fortress made of experiences, beliefs, and silent wounds. Some call it personality, others, identity. I call it walls. These walls begin early. A child learns that to cry is weakness, that to question is rebellion, that to trust too much invites pain. So the heart begins to build. Brick by brick, it learns protection, and forgets connection. The walls we build are not evil. They are born of love, the love of survival. But over time, what was meant to protect us begins to imprison us. We start to live behind our conclusions. We mistake memory for truth, opinion for identity, judgment for wisdom. We stop meeting life freshly. We only meet our interpretations of it. Have you ever noticed how quickly we defend ourselves in conversation? How the mind prepares an answer before the other person finishes speaking. That is the wall at work, subtle, defensive, invisible. Philosophically, these walls are fascinating. They are the ego's architecture of continuity. Psychologically, they are the scars of fear. Spiritually, they are the distance between what we are and what we appear to be. When you begin to observe these walls without judgment, something miraculous happens. They start to soften. Awareness is the solvent of all illusions. The moment you truly see your defenses, they lose their power. But to see them, you must stop running from silence. Sit still for a while. Listen to your thoughts as if they belong to someone else. Observe how often you argue with yourself, justify, rehearse, regret. These are the echoes within your fortress. To open the mind is not to destroy the walls, but to understand why they were built. To open the heart is not to surrender to pain, but to allow pain to be felt fully, without fear of being shattered. Because nothing real can be broken. The walls we build are not the enemy. The enemy is forgetting that we built them. The mirror of understanding. There comes a moment in every sincere life when we realize that the world we see is not the world as it is. It is the world as we are. Everything, from the kindness of a stranger to the cruelty of a friend, becomes filtered through the mirror of our perception. This is both a gift and a trap. A gift, because perception gives meaning to our experience. A trap, because we forget that meaning is not the same as truth. The human mind is a storyteller. It weaves fragments of reality into patterns, and those patterns become our beliefs. When someone speaks, we rarely hear their words, we hear what their words awaken in us. When life offers uncertainty, we rarely see potential, we see danger, loss, control slipping away. And yet, when we start to watch this mechanism gently, without trying to fix it, something extraordinary happens. We begin to see ourselves. The mind as a mirror. Imagine holding a mirror in your hands. If the glass is dusty, everything it reflects looks blurred. You don't blame the world for being unclear, you clean the mirror. Understanding works the same way. When our mind is clouded by fear, judgment, or assumption, the reflection of life appears distorted. We argue not because we love truth, but because we love the comfort of being right. We defend our beliefs not because they are sacred, but because they keep us safe from the vast uncertainty of not knowing. But when we clean the mirror, through silence, through listening, through compassion, clarity returns. We start to see others not as enemies, but as mirrors too, each revealing a hidden aspect of ourselves. The one who annoys you shows you your impatience. The one who frightens you shows you your vulnerability. The one who loves you despite everything shows you your worth. To understand life, you must be willing to be mirrored by it. The philosophy of reflection. Philosophers from ancient Greece to the Zen monasteries of Japan have said the same thing in different tongues. Know thyself. But self-knowledge is not introspection alone, it is relationship. It is the recognition that the universe speaks to us through the people we meet, the experiences we endure, and the silence we resist. Socrates questioned, Buddha observed, Rumi surrendered. Each in their own way was polishing the same mirror. The more you question your certainties, the more transparent the glass becomes. The more you observe your reactions, the more you see that they are not personal, they are human. Understanding begins where judgment ends. The heart's reflection. The heart, too, is a mirror, but it reflects differently. The mind reflects images and patterns. The heart reflects presence. When your heart is open, you do not need to understand everything. You feel the essence beneath. You begin to listen not only to words, but to the silence between them. You see people not for what they show, but for what they hide in fear. This kind of seeing is love. And love is the most honest mirror there is. Love does not flatter or condemn. It simply reveals. It shows you what you cling to, what you avoid, what you still hope to find. When you love deeply, not romantically, but existentially, you see yourself in all things. The pain of another becomes your pain. The joy of another becomes your joy. And slowly, the illusion of separation dissolves. This is not philosophy, it is awakening. The courage to look. To truly understand yourself is an act of great bravery. It means facing the parts of you that you have denied, ignored, or buried beneath achievement and distraction. We fear this mirror because it does not lie. It shows us not the person we wish to be, but the person we are becoming. But remember this. Facing yourself is not an act of shame, it is an act of love. The world has enough judgment, it does not need yours turned inward. Look with gentleness. When you see your own confusion, do not say, I am lost. Say, I am learning to see. When you see your own fear, do not say, I am weak. Say, I am still protecting the child within. When you see your anger, do not say, I have failed. Say, something in me is asking to be healed. Understanding begins the moment you stop turning away. The stillness beyond thought. In deep silence, when the noise of thought subsides, the mirror becomes completely still. You no longer see yourself as separate from what you observe. The boundary between you and life disappears, and all that remains is awareness, vast, luminous, unbroken. This is not something mystical or distant. It happens every time you lose yourself in music, in art, in laughter, in love. In those moments, the mirror and the reflection are one. And that is what it means to live with an open mind and an open heart. To see clearly, and to love what you see. The weight of certainty. There is a strange comfort in certainty. It feels like solid ground beneath our feet, the assurance that we know who we are, where we stand, and what is true. But certainty, though it feels like safety, is often a quiet kind of prison. The walls of that prison are built from what we believe we already know. And once we settle too deeply into knowing, curiosity, that bright, living flame, begins to fade. The philosopher who stops asking questions ceases to be a philosopher. The seeker who claims to have found all answers stops seeking. And the soul that clings to its own conclusions forgets how to wonder. To have an open mind means to live without walls, not because you have no thoughts, but because your thoughts are not cages. The seduction of knowing. From a young age, we are taught to admire certainty. Teachers praise confident answers. Societies reward people who appear sure of themselves. Leaders who hesitate are called weak. Those who doubt are called indecisive. But in truth, certainty is often a mask for fear. We hold on to our opinions not because they are sacred, but because we are terrified of being wrong. The unknown frightens us. So we name it, define it, classify it, and feel for a moment as if we have conquered it. But what if the unknown is not meant to be conquered? What if it is meant to be explored? The universe is vast beyond our comprehension, yet we move through life as if our small understanding were enough to hold it all. Our minds draw maps of the infinite, and then confuse the map for the territory. Every great discovery in science, art, or spirit began not with certainty, but with humility, the courage to say, I don't know. The fear beneath control. Certainty and control are siblings. Wherever one exists, the other follows closely behind. We build routines, expectations, identities, all to maintain the illusion that life is predictable. Yet, life itself is not obedient. It shifts, flows, surprises, and breaks the molds we try to impose upon it. When things fall apart, we panic, not because something has gone wrong, but because reality refuses to obey the script we wrote in our heads. The truth is this: uncertainty is not the enemy. Our resistance to it is. To open your mind means to accept that control is an illusion. You can guide your path, but not dictate its every turn. You can plant seeds, but not command the rain. When you release the need to control everything, you begin to experience the world, not as a battlefield to conquer, but as a living conversation to participate in. The wisdom of doubt. Doubt is not weakness, it is a form of intelligence. It is the heart's way of staying honest when the mind wants to pretend it knows. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote, "Convictions are more dangerous enemies of truth than lies." Why? Because lies can be questioned, but convictions become sacred. And when something becomes sacred, we stop examining it. But doubt keeps the door open. It says, maybe I don't see the full picture. It humbles us before the mystery of existence. This humility is the soil in which wisdom grows. Only when you admit that you don't know can you begin to truly learn. The wise are not those who have the most answers. They are those who remain the most curious. Breaking the shell of ego. Our attachment to being right is not about truth, it's about identity. The ego thrives on certainty because it gives it form. To say, I believe, is to say, this is who I am. So when someone challenges your belief, it feels like they are attacking you. That's why debates so often become battles. But what if being wrong isn't failure? What if it's freedom? Imagine releasing your need to defend every idea, to prove every point, to win every argument. Imagine listening not to respond, but to understand. In that quiet humility, a new kind of strength arises. Not the strength of dominance, but the strength of openness. The ego says, I must be right. The heart whispers, I must be real. And between the two, a human being learns how to grow. The dance between mind and mystery. Life is not meant to be solved like a problem, it is meant to be experienced like a poem. When you stop trying to force meaning, you start to see beauty, in paradox, in change, in the vastness of what you don't know. The ocean doesn't apologize for its depth. The night sky doesn't explain its stars. And you don't need to understand everything to belong in this universe. Certainty limits you to what you already know. Openness allows you to be shaped by what you could never imagine. Let yourself be a question, not an answer. Let yourself be a mystery, not a conclusion. Because when you live with an open mind and an open heart, life reveals itself not as something to master, but as something sacred to meet, again and again, in wonder. The heart's compass, learning to feel without fear. The longest journey you will ever take is the one from your head to your heart. Unknown. We live in a world that often teaches us to distrust our feelings. Logic is praised, emotion is questioned, vulnerability is mistaken for weakness. And yet, beneath the noise of thought, beneath the layers of conditioning, our heart waits, quietly, patiently, like an ancient compass pointing us toward truth. To live with an open heart is to remember how to listen to that compass. It does not speak in arguments or explanations. It speaks in the language of intuition, tenderness, and presence. But learning to feel again, to really feel, requires courage. Because before we can listen to the heart, we must first face what it holds. The walls built from fear. Every one of us has, at some point, been hurt. Disappointment, betrayal, rejection, they leave invisible scars. And slowly, often without realizing, we begin to build walls to protect ourselves from pain. These walls are not made of stone or steel, but of silence, cynicism, and emotional distance. We tell ourselves we are fine. We say, I don't care anymore. But the truth is, the more we try not to feel, the more we lose touch with who we are. Fear convinces us that to protect ourselves, we must close off. But the irony is, in protecting ourselves from pain, we also protect ourselves from love, joy, and wonder. The heart that never breaks also never opens. And without opening, it cannot live. Embracing vulnerability. Vulnerability is the art of staying open even when it hurts. It is the quiet rebellion of saying, I will not harden. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we rediscover the depth of our humanity. It's in the trembling voice of confession, the tears we don't hide, the moment we say, I don't know, or, I'm afraid, that is where truth begins. The world may not always meet your vulnerability with kindness. But even when it doesn't, you grow stronger, not because you are untouched, but because you stay real. As the poet Leonard Cohen wrote, there is a crack in everything, that's how the light gets in. To feel deeply is not a weakness. It is the very essence of being alive. Listening to the inner voice. Your heart speaks softly. It never shouts. That's why most people can't hear it. Their minds are too loud. To listen to your heart, you must slow down. You must create silence, not necessarily the absence of sound, but the absence of distraction. The heart's wisdom doesn't come as instruction. It comes as intuition, the quiet knowing that something feels right or wrong, even when you can't explain why. How often have you ignored that voice? How many times have you said, yes, when everything inside you whispered, no? Each time you betray your intuition, the connection weakens a little. But when you begin to honor that inner whisper, when you act from it, you begin to trust yourself again. The heart becomes a compass you can navigate life with, even in the dark. Pain as a teacher. There is no awakening without suffering. It is not because life is cruel, but because pain is often the only language strong enough to break our illusions. When something shatters us, a loss, a heartbreak, a failure, the mind rushes to label it as tragedy. But the heart, in its quiet wisdom, knows something else. Every pain is an invitation to grow. Pain asks, will you close, or will you open? If you close, the pain hardens into bitterness. If you open, it transforms into understanding. It's through heartbreak that we learn compassion. Through failure, humility. Through loss, gratitude. To live with an open heart doesn't mean avoiding pain. It means trusting that even pain has meaning. You learn to stop asking, why me? And begin asking, what is this trying to show me? The heart doesn't seek to escape life's storms. It learns to dance in the rain. The freedom and forgiveness. Nothing poisons the heart more quietly than resentment. It begins small, a memory, an injustice, a wound, and grows roots in silence. We think that by holding on to anger, we protect ourselves. But forgiveness isn't about excusing someone else. It's about freeing yourself from the weight of what happened. Forgiveness says, you no longer control my peace. It doesn't erase the past, it transforms its meaning. You stop being the victim of the story and become its author. To forgive is an act of great bravery, because it means choosing peace over pride, healing over history, love over fear. The open heart does not deny the pain of betrayal, it transcends it. The courage to stay open, to live with an open heart in a world that often breaks it, that is true strength. It's easy to become numb. It's easy to become cynical. But it takes extraordinary courage to stay soft, to still believe, to keep loving in a world that sometimes forgets how. Every time you open your heart, to a stranger, to a friend, to yourself, you expand the space where light can enter. The more open you become, the more deeply you experience the beauty of being human. In the end, life is not about avoiding pain. It's about embracing everything, joy and sorrow, love and loss, with a heart wide enough to hold it all. The infinite within, living from the center of awareness. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop. Rumi. There comes a point in every seeker's life when questions begin to turn inward. We start by asking the world, but end by asking ourselves, who am I beyond my fears, my desires, my name? What is this awareness that witnesses everything yet remains untouched? This is not philosophy alone. It is a journey into being, the deepest, most intimate realization that what we seek outside has always lived within us. When the mind grows silent, when the noise of ambition and fear fades, what remains is not emptiness, but infinite presence. That is where the true, open mind, and open heart unite, in awareness itself. The mirror of awareness. Close your eyes for a moment. Notice your thoughts passing by. A memory, a plan, a fear, a desire. Who is noticing them? You might say, it's me. But which me? The one who thinks, or the one who watches the thoughts arise and fade? If you observe carefully, you'll realize something extraordinary. There is a stillness within you that never changes. It was there when you were a child. It was there when you suffered heartbreak. It will be there when you grow old. This awareness is like the sky, vast, boundless, and your thoughts are clouds moving through it. Most people identify with the clouds, not the sky. They say, I am angry. But awareness simply witnesses. There is anger. In that simple shift, from identification to observation, lies freedom. The prison of thought. Our greatest suffering often comes not from life itself, but from the stories we tell about it. The mind is a storyteller that never stops speaking. It interprets, compares, worries, judges. When the story is painful, we feel trapped. When it's pleasant, we cling to it, afraid it will end. But the moment you see the story as just that, a story, you begin to step outside the prison of thought. You are not your thoughts. You are the consciousness in which thoughts appear. The problem is not thinking, it's believing every thought is truth. A closed mind argues with reality. An open mind observes and learns from it. Freedom begins not when you control your thoughts, but when you stop letting them control you. The heart beyond emotion. Earlier, we spoke of the heart as the seat of feeling. But in truth, the heart is far more than emotion. It is the bridge between the finite and the infinite. When you live only in the intellect, you analyze life. When you live only in emotion, you react to life. But when you live from awareness, through the heart, you participate in life consciously. The awakened heart loves not because it seeks something, but because it is love. It forgives not to release another, but to free itself from illusion. The great mystics knew this truth. The heart that opens completely becomes a reflection of the divine. When you allow love to flow without condition, not the romantic, fleeting kind, but the quiet love that embraces all beings, you touch the essence of existence. You begin to see the same life pulsing through everyone and everything. In that realization, loneliness dissolves. Because the one who felt separate was never real. The silence that teaches. Many people fear silence. It confronts them with what they've been running from, themselves. But silence is not the absence of life, it is life returning to its source. In deep stillness, you begin to hear what noise could never reveal. The wisdom of intuition, the whisper of being, the pulse of creation. Spend time each day in silence, not as an escape, but as a homecoming. Watch your breath. Observe your mind. Let everything be as it is. Slowly, the layers of anxiety, desire, and doubt begin to fall away. And what remains is peace, not the peace of escape, but the peace of presence. The more you rest in that stillness, the more you realize that the outer world is only a reflection of your inner state. Change begins not by rearranging circumstances, but by awakening within. The infinite within. At the deepest level of awareness, there is no you and me, no inside or outside. There is only consciousness experiencing itself through countless forms, waves of the same vast ocean. You realize that you have never been separate, never been incomplete. Your joy, your sorrow, your growth, all have been part of one great unfolding. To keep an open mind is to remain a student of life. To keep an open heart is to stay connected to that universal pulse of love. When both are open, you become a vessel, not of ambition, but of truth. You see that forgiveness, courage, and compassion were never goals, they were expressions of your natural state. You no longer chase meaning, you become it. In the light of awareness, everything is sacred. Every tear, every laugh, every moment of silence. You begin to live not from fear, but from freedom. Not from desire, but from understanding. Not from separation, but from unity. This is the essence of living with an open mind and an open heart, to move through the world as awareness itself, endlessly learning, endlessly loving. Final reflection. When you awaken, nothing changes, and yet, everything does. The same sky, the same people, the same challenges. But you see them differently. You stop searching for light because you realize, you were never outside of it. You are the light, and around you, through you, within you, it shines forever. That's all folks, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm going to see you in the next. Have a nice day.